Okay, so um, we've got this whole stack of research here on MDMA and magic mushrooms, and it seems like everyone's talking about them these days as like the next big thing for mental health,
Yeah,
especially for like PTSD and depression.
right. Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic.
Is it all hype,
And for good reason, I think.
or is there something real here?
There is a growing body of research suggesting that, these substances, when used in controlled settings, might have some real therapeutic benefits.
Yeah.
However,
For-
there is another side to this story, too,
Right.
a darker side that we need to explore as well.
Yeah, because we're also seeing these reports of potential risks,
Exactly.
even long-term psychiatric problems linked to these substances.
Right.
So are we talking about unlocking trauma or unlocking a lifetime of mental health struggles?
That's what we need to figure out.
That's what we're here to figure out.
Yeah,
So first, maybe let's just define what we're even dealing with here.
sure.
We've got MDMA, which is often called ecstasy,
Right.
and it's synthetic.
It-
And usually associated with, those really euphoric connected feelings you might get like at a rave or something.
Exactly.
And then you've got magic mushrooms, which contain psilocybin, which is a naturally occurring psychedelic.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are now being seriously considered for their potential to help people struggling with conditions like PTSD.
Yeah.
There's that one study that keeps popping up about MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What's the story there?
Well, that study showed some really significant improvements in PTSD symptoms,
Yeah.
even in patients who hadn't responded well to traditional therapies.
Wow.
So imagine, finally finding some relief from those debilitating effects of trauma.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
But then it makes you wonder why this isn't more widespread.
sure.
If it's that effective, why isn't everyone with PTSD being offered this therapy?
Well, there is a reason for that caution. And this is where the conversation gets a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
You see, these studies involve really carefully controlled settings. Right.
With trained therapists.
Okay.
And there are still risks even under those conditions.
So it's not as simple as just taking a pill and your troubles go away.
No, it's not a magic bullet.
Okay, so then what kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, one study,
Or could actually go wrong?
one study using standardized assessments like the Beck Depression Inventory and the Beck Anxiety Inventory
Okay.
found something pretty surprising.
Okay.
Even people who considered themselves light ecstasy users,
Okay.
meaning they'd used it fewer than 50 times,
Less than 50 times, that's light.
they scored significantly higher on measures of depression and anxiety compared to those who had never used it.
So even light use is potentially linked to increased anxiety and depression.
That's what the research suggests.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that these substances were being explored as treatments for those conditions.
Right. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
It highlights just how complex the brain is
Right.
and how these substances interact with it.
And it's not just those two conditions either.
Okay.
This same study also revealed that ecstasy users scored higher on measures of what we call schizotypy.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure.
What is schizotypy and why should we be concerned about it?
So schizotypy refers to a cluster of personality traits
Okay.
that are often considered kind of early warning signs or precursors to schizophrenia.
Okay.
Things like difficulty focusing,
Okay.
unusual thoughts,
Okay.
social anxiety.
So what this research is suggesting is that even relatively limited ecstasy use might be associated with an increased likelihood of developing these traits.
That's right.
Oh, wow. So we're potentially talking about some pretty serious long-term consequences here.
Yeah.
Depression, anxiety, and even schizophrenia.
Especially with prolonged or heavy MDMA use.
Exactly.
Okay, so these aren't just hypothetical risks.
Bro.
These are real possibilities.
They're real possibilities, and unfortunately, we're not just talking about hypothetical risks.
There have been documented cases of individuals who developed chronic psychiatric symptoms
Wow.
after using MDMA regularly.
And these symptoms persisted even after they stopped using the drug.
Yes, in some cases they did.
That's a big gamble.
It is.
So it's not just about potential harm during use,
Right.
but the possibility of triggering lasting mental health issues even after you stop.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And we also have to remember that everyone reacts differently to these substances.
Right, of course. Yeah.
What might be beneficial for one person could be devastating for another.
Yeah.
There's even a risk of what we call accidental psychosis,
Okay.
where even a single use of MDMA can trigger a psychotic episode.
So one night out,
Yeah,
one bad experience,
potentially.
could lead to a lifetime of mental health struggles.
It's possible.
That's frightening.
It is a serious risk.
And are these risks unique to MDMA?
Unfortunately, no.
Or are we seeing similar concerns with other substances as well?
Well, even cannabis, which is often perceived as relatively harmless, can induce hallucinations, distortions of perception,
Right.
and delusions.
Oh,
It's
I'm
true. And studies have shown a link between cannabis use, especially during adolescence,
Okay.
and a higher risk of developing mental health issues later in life, like
Right.
depression, anxiety, even schizophrenia.
And this is especially true for people who might be genetically predisposed to these conditions.
That's right.
So it's like, are we really healing with these substances?
Yeah.
Or are we just masking one problem with another?
That's the big question.
And maybe even creating bigger issues down the road.
It is. And it really brings us back to, the importance of responsible use,
Right.
informed consent,
Okay.
and understanding individual risk factors.
So let's break those down one by one.
Sure.
When you say responsible use, what does that even look like in this context?
Well, first of all, it's definitely not about casual experimentation at home.
Right.
The positive results that we're seeing in the research are happening in very carefully structured therapeutic settings. This isn't about self-medicating
Right.
or recreational use.
Okay.
It involves trained therapists,
Okay.
controlled doses of the substances, and extensive preparation and integration sessions.
Okay, so the therapeutic setting itself is a crucial component.
Absolutely.
It's not just about the substance.
It's not just about the substance, it's about the whole context.
It's about how it's used
Right.
and the support system around it.
Exactly. The therapist acts as a guide,
Okay.
helping the patient navigate, the often very intense emotions and insights that can come up during these sessions.
Right.
And then they help integrate those experiences back into the patient's everyday life in a safe and constructive way.
And then that brings us to informed consent.
Yes.
So if someone is considering these therapies, what do they really need to know to make a truly informed decision?
Well, they need to be fully aware of both the potential benefits and the risks.
Okay.
They need to understand their own personal risk factors,
Yeah.
things like family history of mental illness or any pre-existing conditions that might make them more vulnerable to adverse effects.
So for example, if someone has a family history of schizophrenia,
Yeah.
they might be at higher risk of experiencing psychotic symptoms from MDMA.
That's possible.
It sounds like these are really crucial conversations to have with a medical professional
Absolutely.
before even considering these therapies.
Yes. Open and honest conversations with a healthcare provider are essential. They can help assess, those individual risk factors
Right,
and determine if these therapies are even appropriate.
right. It's about personalized medicine,
Exactly.
not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Okay, so education is key here.
It is.
But what about the bigger picture?
Sure.
Right now, these substances are mostly illegal.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we see a shift towards legalization
Right.
or decriminalization?
That's a big question.
How do we prevent misuse
Yeah.
and protect people who might be more vulnerable?
Well, if we move toward broader access, strong regulatory frameworks will be absolutely essential.
Okay.
We need to think about things like age limits, screening processes to make sure people are suitable candidates,
Right.
and responsible distribution models that prioritize safety
Okay.
and minimize the risk of diversion.
And it's also important to emphasize that legal doesn't equal safe.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Just because something is legally available
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's appropriate or safe for everyone.
We need to get away from this black and white thinking.
Exactly.
It's
It's not that simple.
this legal versus illegal mentality.
Right. We need a more nuanced approach
Right.
that prioritizes safety,
Yeah.
education, and individual well-being.
Okay, so where does all of this leave us
Yeah.
in terms of the future of mental health treatment?
Well,
Are we on the cusp of a psychedelic revolution, or are we headed down a potentially dangerous path?
it's still too early to say for sure.
Okay.
The potential is undeniable,
Yeah.
but we need to proceed with caution, continue rigorous research,
Right.
and maintain, a deep respect for the power of these substances.
So they're tools.
They're tools.
They're not magic bullets.
Exactly.
That, like any powerful tool, they can be used for good or for harm.
It's up to us to figure out how to wield them responsibly and ethically.
Okay, so we've explored the science,
Mhm.
the potential benefits, the risks,
Right.
the need for responsible use.
Yes.
But there's this other question that keeps coming up for me.
Okay.
What about the people who are drawn to these substances for reasons beyond therapy.
Right.
What's driving that interest?
That takes us beyond the realm of pure science
Right.
and into the complexities of human experience.
Yeah, because it seems like there's something more at play here
Yeah.
than just like a quick fix
Yeah.
or a good time.
I think it speaks to a fundamental human desire to explore, the boundaries of our perception, to transcend the everyday and connect with something larger than ourselves.
It's like this innate curiosity about the nature of reality, the mysteries of consciousness that keeps pulling us toward these experiences.
It's a powerful pull.
But as we've been discussing, those glimpses can come with a price.
They can.
And that's where things get tricky.
Yeah. How do we balance that inherent human desire for exploration and transcendence with the need for safety and responsibility?
How do we protect people
while
acknowledging the potential benefits of these experiences?
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah, it seems like we're talking about a very fine line here.
It is a fine line.
Between unlocking trauma and unlocking a lifetime of psychiatric problems.
It's a powerful way to put it.
And that's a scary thought.
It highlights the tension that we're grappling with.
Yeah.
The potential for both profound healing and profound harm.
So this conversation needs to continue.
It does.
With honesty, with nuance, and with compassion.
Absolutely. We need to move forward with a balanced perspective that acknowledges both the promise and the peril of these powerful substances. Yeah, it really underscores the importance of understanding the individual, the context, the intention behind the use of these substances.
Yeah, because a substance in and of itself isn't good or bad.
Right.
It's how it's used.
Exactly.
By whom and for what purpose that determines its impact.
It's like so many things in life.
Right.
A scalpel in the hands of a skilled surgeon can save a life.
Right.
But in the wrong hands, it can cause immense harm.
So how do we apply that scalpel analogy to the world of psychedelics?
That's a good question.
How do we ensure that they're being used for healing and not for harm?
Well, I think it begins with acknowledging that these substances aren't for everyone.
Okay.
They are powerful tools. They demand respect.
Yeah.
And they require a certain level of, I think, psychological maturity and stability to be used safely.
So self-medicating with these substances is a recipe for disaster.
It can be incredibly dangerous. It's like, attempting surgery on yourself without any medical training.
Right.
I wouldn't do that.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
But it seems like there's so much misinformation out there.
There is, especially online.
Yeah, and a lot of romanticization of these substances.
So people might be tempted to try them without fully understanding the risks.
Absolutely. And that's why education is so crucial.
Okay.
We need to provide, accurate, evidence-based information so people can make informed choices.
So what kind of information should people be looking for?
Yeah.
What are some red flags that might suggest that these therapies aren't right for them?
Well, first and foremost, if there's any personal or family history of mental illness, particularly psychosis or schizophrenia, extreme caution is necessary. Talk to a doctor.
Yeah.
Be honest about your history and carefully consider the potential risks.
And what about people who are considering recreational use of these substances?
I strongly advise against it.
Okay.
The risks are simply too high.
Remember, even if something is legal, that doesn't guarantee safety for you. You know your brain chemistry, your personal history, your current mental state. All of these things play a role in how these substances affect you.
So do your research.
Yes.
Talk to a medical professional.
Absolutely.
Understand the risks. And don't believe everything you read online.
Exactly. Be critical. Be informed.
Yeah.
And prioritize your well-being above all else.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the potential dangers.
We have.
But let's circle back to the potential benefits for a moment.
Sure.
Because it does seem like these substances hold something special.
I think so.
Something that could really revolutionize mental health treatment.
The possibility of achieving, profound and lasting healing. In a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
It is.
Traditional therapies can take years.
Yeah.
Even decades.
Right.
And some people never find relief.
And with MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD, for example, we're seeing pretty remarkable results in just a few sessions.
It's true.
So it's like these substances are acting as catalysts for healing.
Yeah.
Helping people break through barriers that have held them back for years.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's like they create this window of opportunity, a heightened state of neuroplasticity where deep-seated trauma can be processed and released.
And the research isn't limited to PTSD.
No, it's not.
We're seeing studies on psilocybin for depression,
right,
anxiety, even addiction.
There's growing evidence that these substances can help people, reframe their relationship with their thoughts and emotions.
Okay.
Break free from negative patterns and cultivate a greater sense of meaning and purpose.
It's like they're helping people rewrite the stories they've been telling themselves.
Exactly.
Stories that have kept them stuck.
That's incredibly powerful.
It is.
It speaks to the potential of these substances to facilitate, deep personal transformation. It's not just symptom reduction.
So it's not just about feeling better.
Right.
It's about becoming a more whole and integrated version of yourself.
That's what makes this field so fascinating and so full of hope.
Yeah.
We're really just beginning to explore what these substances can teach us about the human mind and its capacity for healing.
It feels like we're on the brink of a new frontier.
It does.
A new understanding of consciousness and well-being.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah, but as we venture into this uncharted territory, we need to proceed with caution.
Absolutely.
With humility.
Yes.
And with a strong commitment to ethical and responsible practices.
Couldn't agree more.
The stakes are high.
They are.
We're not just dealing with molecules here. We're dealing with human lives.
That's right. We have a responsibility to ensure that these substances are used in a way that maximizes their potential for healing.
Right.
And minimizes the risk of harm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
yeah,
what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to leave with?
I'd say approach the world of psychedelics with an open mind, but also with a critical eye. Don't buy into the hype.
Yeah.
But don't dismiss the potential either.
Okay.
Do your research. Ask questions.
Yeah.
And make informed choices that prioritize your well-being.
And remember, the journey of healing is personal.
It is.
What works for one person may not work for another.
Absolutely.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Trust your intuition. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
And advocate for yourself.
Those are wise words.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Our deep dive into the world of MDMA and magic mushrooms.
It's been quite a journey.
The hope, the hype, and the potential dangers.
Indeed.
We've examined the science, the potential benefits, and the very real risks. We talked about responsible use, informed consent, the importance of individualized treatment.
Absolutely.
And we grappled with the complex ethical and societal implications of these powerful substances.
It's a complex issue.
It is. And as research continues, and these substances potentially become more widely available, we need to keep asking these questions.
We do.
Keep having these tough conversations.
Absolutely.
And keep working towards that delicate balance.
It's an ongoing process.
Between unlocking healing and preventing harm.
That's the goal.
Because ultimately it's about harnessing the power of these substances to create a world where more people can experience lives filled with meaning, purpose, and well-being.
That's a beautiful vision.
That's a goal worth striving for.
I agree.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Keep diving deep.
Keep learning.
Keep asking questions.
Keep exploring.
And keep seeking those nuggets of knowledge that illuminate the mysteries of the human experience.